So I've just spent a full day cleaning the car. I just went over every millimetre of it by hand using alcohol wipes. I think I went through 5 packs, and each pack's got 200 sheets in it, I think. Maybe 250. So all these little cavities where the trim makes little pockets against the metal, they were just full of muck and gunk, and they've all been cleared out. You can see the colour difference in this line, look, where the number plate is covering it and how faded it is. The roof was particularly hard because along this channel where the roof rack would sit, this was just full of muck and leaves and gunk. It's kind of compacted in there, so I really had to scrape. In fact, I had to use a screwdriver to scrape some of it out. Now it's all clean. And after cleaning it, I've repaired some patches. So this is where the wiper motor comes out, and there was a big rubber stopper holding it in, and it's screwed in very tight, so it actually kind of bonded with the Plasti-Dip, and when I pulled it off it tore. So using some thinner with a finger and a microfiber cloth, I thinned it out so there's no hard line ready to spray. The aim is you don't want to have like a hard edge, because that will show through, every mark will show through the Plasti-Dip. Also, when rubbing away the dirt, little bits of dip came with it, which have all been now smoothed out with a finger. Up here there's another patch where this was particularly bad for muck and was all kind of embedded in, so I had to smooth it all out again. There's a patch here where the rear trim kind of digs into the paint, so it left some kind of deep gouges in the paint, so I smoothed those out, give it a nice smooth surface. Same on the driver's side, where there was a hard line here which was actually full of dirt. It's kind of like a, yeah, so I had to cut it back gently with a scalpel, peel it off, and then smooth it. So now it's ready for spraying again. This was quite a bad chip in the paint, so I smoothed this one out. This is now ready for spraying. Then I could repair some of the bad patches from last time. When I was spraying last time, I had a big run up here in this corner. So what I did is I actually sanded it smooth. You can still see some lines, that's just where the pearls dripped and made their own pattern, but this is actually smooth now. So I took all the lumps out by hand with really fine grade sandpaper. So now it'll be nice and smooth. There was another patch here which has been sanded out, and you can see, if it comes out on camera, maybe I'll get focus. Yeah, there's another patch here. See, it's a bit more shiny where I've sanded away the top layer. So this is now smooth, so it won't show anymore. Same for the passenger side. There's a few places I had to thin back. It's not really coming out on this camera how bad the paint actually looks. In this light it actually looks quite good. Here's another where there was a hard line here. Actually this one wasn't so bad, I could just smooth it. But this one, the very top just peels back just a tiny bit, and then it fills with muck. So I cut that back and then smoothed it by hand. Now it's ready for spraying. I'll mask on this black line again. The bonnet had one patch I remember from when I did the last job. Let me turn this light on. There we go. So there was a big mark here which has been sanded smooth. And actually with this light on you can see how bad the paint actually looks when you're up close to it. This bit here I repaired by sanding, and this bit I've repaired by sanding, and the rest of it, all that kind of different colour, discolorations and faded patches, that's just how the paint looks when you're up close. So that's why it needs doing. From a distance it still looks good, but when you're up close it just doesn't look that great anymore. These channels are now clean. They were particularly bad. And on top of the roof, where it doesn't get washed very well, and in fact this was the thinnest layer, I actually got some thinner on some microfiber towels, and I rubbed the whole roof and took like the very top layer. It's kind of like wet sanding in a way. So I've keyed into the paint now. It was amazing how much muck came off. So now these faint patches I want to just spray a little bit with basic red Plasti-Dip and build them up and then sand it smooth again, and so I've got one nice smooth layer. I'll do that for all the patches I repaired, including the driver's door and the same on the passenger side. You can see another area where I sanded out some bumps just here. So now I can repair those patches. So I've just masked around all the weak areas. So these weak areas are the thin areas. So there's two reasons for touching these up. One, I don't want there to be such a colour difference between these two areas. And two, I want to build it up so it's not going to stay a weak area. It's going to be just as thick as the rest of the coat. So that's why I'm going to touch these areas up. So I haven't masked the whole car, just around the areas which I'm going to spot spray. For the windows, I'm going to use the same technique as when I did the car last time, which worked well. Don't try and mask right against the edge of this glass, because you'll never get a perfect line. Instead, mask inside the glass, and then once you've sprayed with a fine blade, it's on camera, like this, you can just score down the line like this, and then the Plasti-Dip on the glass will just like peel off. So that's the whole point of Plasti-Dip, you can peel it off. I'll show you the areas which are masked off. I decided to take this window out in the end because it was just too fiddly masking around the bottom, so it only took 10 minutes to take the window out. So this area here can now easily be touched up and thickened. There's an area under here where actually I missed this part when I did the first coat, so you could always see it white from underneath if you looked. This wheel arch here was a bit thin, so that started wearing off. This is the only wheel arch which requires it, the others are fine. This window can't be taken out, this one's fixed in, but it has a slightly bigger gap, so I could mask more easily, and I can get in quite nice and deep and thicken that up. Here's the hard line, which I pulled back and softened back, so I'll build this one up. And inside this door, I've masked up the inside with plastic I can pull back, so I'll touch up this hard line here, and I'll thicken up this edge here. This is just to stop the red spot spray going inside the window. Where else? Here was one more thin spot, and all the way up these two pillars on both sides. Again, I haven't gone all the way to the glass, I'll peel it off once it's built up. This bonnet area was a little bit thin, even though this is covered with that grey piece of trim. I thought I might as well thicken it up while I'm doing it. And around the light on the passenger side, there was a little bit missed here, just around here, and around here where the bumper connected to it and kind of rubbed it off. And all the way around the window, you see, all the way around here. So I put it on nice and thick. And the driver's side required a lot less. Still there's the pillar, which needs touching up. And there's the hard line above the door. There's that little repair I did. But this window, I haven't taken these windows out yet. These come out, I will take them out. But I don't need to touch them up first. If you look, there's no marks in the paint, no thin spots. So, could be due to two reasons. One, I just probably did a better job, put it thicker on when I was actually painting the car. And also this side is parked against the wall all the time. And it's the passenger side which is exposed to the weather all the time, so maybe that one took a bit more of a beating. I guess. So I'll just use my spot sprayer, mix up some red spray and touch up all those areas. I want to build them up nice and thick so I don't suffer the same problems again. And then I will take all that masking off and remask it again later when it comes to spraying properly. So after building up the weak spots with red, I've removed all the masking and they're now nice and smooth, built up to the same level, and there won't be such a colour difference when I come to put the next coat on. All around this window. And these were the particularly bad areas here. These are now built up. I built it up so much that at one point I got a little bit of a drip here because I was just putting way too much in to try and make it super thick. So I'll smooth that out with a bit of thinner. And where I masked, because I had to mask a hard line on the body, I now have a line here which I'll smooth down. I should have masked these properly and then I wouldn't have had to worry about it. And also I did this one a tiny bit too low, so I need to make sure I raise that one up when I do the top coats. But I'll smooth this line out very gently. Same along here, there's a bit here. And the rest of it is good. All the way up this window's now nice and thick. And this part of the bonnet. Little patch here. Same on this side. And this line here. So, that's all the weak spots corrected. A few minor places, such as these lines, I'll smooth out just with a tiny bit of thinner. And now the repair work is done and it's time to start prepping for the final spray. And this is the part where I'm going to go off plan and come up with a new strategy. So I'll explain that next.